Hello, hello there. Welcome back to the Cookie Chat. I am Melissa with Missy P Sweets. I've got my lovely co host here,
I'm Chelsea with Rolling in the Dough AZ.
and we are your two basic bakers talking all things baking, letting loose, keeping it real, all those fun things. um, and honestly, I'm just not going to beat around the bush with our topic today because I feel like it's important when it's one that I am kind of coming out of right now. And we're talking about burnout and self-care and just kind of how to work through all of that. And I think especially coming out of our busiest season of the year, it's really common. I mean, this so you will be watching this, fine folks, or listening to it um, in February at this point. So hopefully we're all coming out of our burnout by this point. But Chelsea, what does burnout kind of well, I know that you've gone through burnout, right?
hmm
Do you generally feel it coming on or does it hit you all of a sudden? Or have you had both?
I can say I've had both. It just depends on the season of life that I'm in with
Yeah.
it. Um, yeah. What about you?
So I can generally feel burnout coming on. There's sometimes when I'll just wake up from, I don't know, a late night or something like that, and it's just not going to happen that day.
hmm
Um, and I think that there's like a couple of different types of burnout. I think that there's like kind of an overall like unmotivated altogether burnout, and then there's a creative block burnout.
hmm
I do think that those are two different things. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, just speaking personally, with a physical and just like mental burnout, I that's a sign to me that I need time to just like decompress and do nothing. Um, Now I don't like to let myself sit in that too long because I think that that can become like something unhealthy. But I do just need to do something mindless and my body just needs a recharge. I actually heard this when I was in my I need to recharge phase. I was binge listening to podcasts and
hmm
just like mindless podcasts. So just like pop culture stuff. And this girl was saying that she lives a sober life now, but she was saying that she had got a social hangover. And it was because she had like gone out and she didn't drink at all obviously because she's sober, but she was just talking and everything like that. And the next day she was like, I felt like what I used to feel like when I had a hangover, like just so tired and worn out. And it's so true. Like I feel that sometimes. Like there are definitely times when social things can energize me, but we hear this too like after cookie con. People say that there's a cookie con hangover, and it's because like you're exerting so much energy in just like talking with people. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they're introverts because you have no problem talking to people, you don't get anxious about talking to people, you enjoy talking to people. But if your energy is depleted after all of that versus energized after all of that, then most likely you're kind of more of an introvert.
Is that you or do you?
I think I'm an extroverted introvert.
That's what I am.
Yeah.
I like
So,
talking to people, but then I like to be like, I prefer more of my own time.
yeah, I like my alone time. Um yeah, and I need that off time to recharge. And I think looking back, I've been this way all the time. I was so go 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 in high school and growing up, and I was in theater and choir and everything, and I'd have rehearsals until late, and then also have like, doing all of the homework and everything. And there were days where my mom just like let me go late to school because she's like, you just need sleep and you can miss a class today because you need sleep and you need to recharge. I think sometimes people thought in certain phases where it looks like a laziness, and it just truly is not. I'm either like going 100 miles an hour or like I need the time to just deplete and recharge. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm extra protective of my kids' schedules for that reason. Is I purposely don't book so many things or have it constant like our calendars filled or things to go because they are extremely sensitive to that too. And so I never wanted to put that as like the precedent of like, you always have to be going or you're not doing anything.
Mhm.
We prioritize rest in our house and my kids will like enjoy, like we did a gingerbread decorating party. They loved it. They had so much fun. But like then the next day, I'm like, you have nothing. So they love to like read and relax and things. So adding to that, I agree. Mine looks, I have to get better at it. Mine just looks like I just want to, I don't mean it in any particular way. I just don't want to respond to anything. I'm like, because I feel like I'm always attached to my phone.
Oh my
And
gosh, 100% the same. Yes, 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 yes.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to like neglect my duties or anything. I just am like, I have no desire to touch my phone. Um, It's odd because while I'm working, I'm listening to shows or podcasts because I have a different schedule than you. So I do have to zone out and listen to things. So that is no longer my like Zen time. So mine is like cleaning and organizing and just like going to my parents' house to hang out or seeing our family for dinner. So cooking in the kitchen, just like the day to day activities to me is recharge enough. Um, Yeah, it's so funny how everyone's like recharge is different. Mine is more, I don't want to have to talk to somebody. I don't want to have to answer questions. I don't want that like responsibility of I have to get back to my email. I have to get back to this. Like the have to list, I'm like, that just needs to pause. It's
Totally. 100%. And I think this is like, I didn't, I can't remember how many people I told this to over Christmas break, but I was just like, there, so not so many times, but in these times where I just feel like I need recharge, like guys, if I didn't have to have social media for my business, I wouldn't have it because it's a train that you have to keep running. And when we're in these downtimes, it's just really hard. I 100% agree. Like, just even getting back to, just like happy holidays text. And I'm like, oh, I say thanks in my head, but I'm just like forming like all of those like things and like checking things off the list. It's just, it feels daunting in those times. But I
yeah,
think my thing is just like, it took me a long time to get to a place where it was like, oh no, other people feel this way too. And other people go through this too. And it's okay. It's okay. Like, I think, especially, I hear it a lot with people who are creative, is
mhm,
the brain doesn't turn off a lot of times with creative thoughts and creative flow. And that's why I said I played like bukus of just Candy Crush. And it's probably why you like organizing and things like that, because it's something that your mind can focus on. And I think also with being an entrepreneur, it's my brain is constantly going with business things. And that is one thing where it's like, oh, it can turn off of that. And like,
mhm.
it's not thinking about that, and it can focus on something else that doesn't require me to excel in some way or exert like that piece of my brain.
Right. I think I felt when I was in corporate more of the creative burnout because that creative demand was structured between 8 to 5. And it was like, okay, today is a brainstorming day. And you wake up and you're like, I don't really feel like brainstorming. I have nothing coming to mind. Um, and so I definitely feel it was a different type of burnout in that segment of life. But yeah, I agree. It's that it's again, people needing something from you. And you're just like, I have nothing left to give. My bucket is empty. I don't even, and we all kind of hit it, I feel, after Christmas, regardless if you're in our world or not. Just there's so much demand of like holiday classes and light shows and school. Like it's just so overwhelming that we do. I feel like it's a mixture of a burnout of social anxiety and feeling to be on and seeing all these people and work ending. You're just like, everyone needs something from me.
Totally.
Do you ever get
Yeah.
that like overstimulation of like will say like sometimes I don't touch me, don't come in my bubble. So many people have come in it.
I um I used to feel that when the girls were really little, I got over I get I was getting over touch stimulated when the girls were little. Which is I think that's I it's just so common for moms
Yeah.
with little kids. It's just constantly people are touching and you're it's like a truly a physical neurological thing of just like I can't be touched anymore. Nowadays, especially in the summertime, there are times when I go into Mike's office and I'm like, I need to tap out because I can't the yelling or the screaming or
Yes.
something like that. It gets to a point where my body I just go into like crying mode, like them, and they could just say mom, but I'm just like, I'm done at that point. It's too much. So it's more so like with the kids, then I haven't experienced it with, I don't really, I don't have so much social anxiety from that standpoint. My, my social anxiety more so comes from like, ooh, like, did I like, was that appropriate to say? Or like overthinking after I've engaged with people. Mine is more so that, like, questioning that sort of thing.
Your filter.
Like, did they have a good time? Was that, like, was that appropriate? Or, um, you know, did what did they think of, like, me? Or, it's
I
more
will
so
say you
that
are
part.
very sensitive on that, like,
Yeah.
or I know, like, between our texts and stuff, sometimes you're like, "I feel like you're" I'm like, "No, I have a million things, so I'm just answering, like,
Yes.
what bare minimum I need to answer so I can, like, keep focusing," and you're like,
I just wanna make sure everybody's copacetic, you know?
"Yeah." I have always been sound sensitive. So if there's too many sounds going on in my house, like if the TV is on and then the dogs are barking and then one of the kids' music's going on and I'm trying to like I cannot just zone it out.
Yeah.
And so that's one reason why when I work I have to have headphones. Um,
Mhm.
which is really sweet. Tommy tried to get me the Apple AirPods, I think
Uh-huh.
they're called. Yeah. I cannot do the AirPods at
How
all.
come?
One, I don't like the, I know the new ones have it. Mine are right here, actually. It's like the shape of them. You know what I'm talking about? Like the way
Yeah,
they sit in your
okay.
ear.
Have you tried the Raycons?
Okay, so like these.
Uh-huh.
Do you see these kind?
Okay, yeah, yep.
So it's like the
So
circular,
it's the
right?
ones that have the little since we're not visual, it's the ones
Yeah.
that have the little circle thing that pops on
Yes, like it
at
goes
the
into
end.
your ear. So they're
Yeah.
noise canceling.
Mhm.
The AirPods to me, I know they have the new ones like this, but
Okay.
yeah. So the
So you need
traditional
to
don't.
try the Raycon ones. Those are like the new fad right now. Dang it, I should have got you some for Christmas. I saw them on the Rambling Redhead,
Yeah,
which
I
we
love,
love.
like, these kind. I
Mhm.
typically don't do the ones that I always have them connected because I set things
Yeah.
down places and I forget where they're at,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they have to go in my ear because 'cause they're noise canceling, and I cannot hear anything
Mhm.
going on, but it's because of that. I've noticed that if sound around me is always, like, dogs barking, kids screaming, this
Yeah.
is that, then I'm like, I'm overstimulated, and
Uh-huh.
I just shut down, and I'm like, I'm any creative anything that was coming
Mhm.
or motivation is out the window.
Oh, totally.
And it's
Yeah.
hard to, like, get back on the train and get it going.
Yeah.
And then especially when you add in, like, a difficult week of customs or customers, whatever it might be, then you're just like, "Yeah, okay, I've lost everything." Like,
Yeah.
so I think that burnout kinda comes at different sections
Yeah.
of our business.
What about weather-wise?
Summer sucks.
So, in Arizona, because it's so dang hot,
Yeah,
and
which
so you just feel trapped inside.
that's where it's hard for people sometimes to like make the connection because they're like,
Mhm.
when I'll say it, they're like, "How can you be saying that it's so sunny? I would give anything to be where you're at." I'm like, "There's sunny and then there's miserably 120 degrees hot." Like there have
Mhm.
been times where you walk outside and you're like, "I'm going to be sick. It's so hot."
Mhm.
So we have seasonal depression in summer where most places have it in winter.
Yeah.
So ours is the
You know
flip flop.
what's interesting, and I don't know if you've seen the statistic there. So in Texas, it's obviously not as extreme, but for sure
Yeah.
by like Our kids go back to school early in August, so I feel like by the time the kids are back in school, it's, like, a little bit more normalized and people aren't as much this way, but by end of July, the crime rate actually goes up
What?
because yeah, yeah, the crime rate goes up in summer because people are so hot and it aggravates people more apparently. And so, apparently just I
I
don't
will
know
say when
why.
you're hot, it is so uncomfortable. Like you
Mhm.
are just at wit's end because there's nothing you can do to cool down.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's where here
Yeah.
everyone's just like, I'm done. Which I
Yeah.
know people like I have a friend who's moved here in Arizona because of seasonal depression for rain and cold.
Mhm.
So they thrive in the summer. And I'm like, some of us just if I can't have my windows open, like my windows open right now and it's 43 degrees, it feels amazing to me. But like the fresh air, the going outside is such a recharge. So when you can't have it, which I'm sure so many people feel in the winter, it's like that claustrophobic, like the world is ending.
Oh, 100%. This is why snowbirds started, right? Because they're
Hmm.
like, we got to get out of here. Yeah. No, I would not be able to handle it. I would so much rather take heat, extreme heat, but at least have sun than the overcast. I know for sure that my body would not be able to handle it, and I feel so much for our friends up in the north and in the northeast, or well, even the northwest. I mean, it gets overcast.
Washington, Oregon, yeah.
Exactly. That's got to be so tough, especially during your busiest time of year as a baker. It's got to be so hard. And I know that I've actually like seen and talked to a few people. They're like really trying to get on top of it. And I think this is part of my thing too. Is I can feel my burnout coming on. Generally, it happens to me when my energy drops. I mean, obviously, like your energy
Yeah.
drops. My energy drops largely because of my eating is off and I'm like letting go of exercising the way I need to. And then organizationally, I start to get off because my brain is just tired. And so I'm not staying on top of things. And then that I feel like is when my creativity starts to drop off because all this other stuff is kind of like clogging up my brain. And my thing sometimes is like if I have so much stuff on my plate, then that can get overwhelming. And then it's just, well, then I don't even know where to start. So I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So that can kind of be where it leads on. So I really applaud people who like can identify those things and try and get ahead of it. So for me, it's staying on top of it with eating and exercise. But I have seen people get like UV lights
Mhm.
up north, or like you tanning beds are a no-go these days. But I do know that people used to do that for
Yeah.
seasonal depression.
Hmm. The vitamin
Um
D drop.
yeah, the vitamin D drops, like treadmills inside, any sort of like thing to get the blood flowing sort of stuff.
Isn't that why Peloton kind of helped take off? Like, it was a big
Oh, I don't know.
push,
Yeah, I feel
especially
like
with
it
COVID when
I
people
think
are
COVID
restricted.
is when it like really took off. That's when we got ours, is right when it started.
Yeah, that
Um,
camaraderie. I definitely
mhm.
will relate to if I have too much on my plate that's non-business related. I'm like, I cannot break and focus, and it gives me no motivation. So that's where I stay on such a rigid schedule of
Mhm.
like, laundry gets done this day, this gets done this day, and I have to have like a recoup day
Yes.
just to get it all done. I feel business burnout when my personal life doesn't feel like it's being fulfilled enough.
Yeah. I loved too, you told me one time, you're like, "As long as these 3 things are taken care of in my personal life, then I can focus." It was
Mhm.
like groceries for the next week. What all was it?
My house is clean
Clean
and
house, groceries
uh,
are done.
yeah, meal prep. Like as long as I know what
Yeah.
I'm cooking and stuff,
Yeah. And I
everything
think
else to me.
that's so smart because it's when the meals go, I feel like, that then it starts to kind of crumble.
It does, but then I'm like, yeah, as long as like those things are good. Like
Mhm.
my house is clean, everything's put away, the week is prepped, whether it be food, the kids' schedule, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
cool.
I
It's
know
everything
some
else.
people hate Mondays. I love a Monday.
I love Mondays.
I
It's
love
a
a
reset day.
Monday. Yes. And we tend to stay low key on Sundays too. And I'll like get laundry done and just like get stuff prepped for the week. And we like the girls, we do like a family meal and the girls get down. easy, and we're both early risers, and yeah, it's just I love a Monday. I
Yeah,
love a
we've been
Monday.
sleeping in a lot more, which is such an odd stage of life because I used to get like 4 hours of sleep and I was like, I can run on this.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, man, like a 9 to 10 hour sleep night is like so ideal,
Right?
which is gonna be weird getting back into the flow of like next week
Yeah.
going back for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I will say in my past with working nonstop, hustle, hustle, caffeine circulating from coffee to energy drinks to all of that. It is a real thing. I know if you Google it, it's like more the homeo natural path route. So it's always like a contested subject. I literally, you guys had my adrenal gland burnout. Like when we're talking about burnout, it is your central hub that helps produce energy for your body. And Melissa knows I've literally had to go get my adrenal gland tested for the levels of like natural energy that it produces. And I have to take medicine now just to daily function. Like when I say I produce no energy, because I burnt them out. Pretty much I demanded my body to keep going at this rapid pace without the proper sleep, nutrition, all of that. And it just ended up being a trickle effect in my health that now I'm still working on it 2 years later, and it's something that I'll have to work on for a few years, but it's just something I didn't think of at the time because 'cause you're like, "I'm invincible, it's working, everything's going great," until it's not, and when you don't have that, now it's like a subconscious thing I have to think about, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I can't get back to here because if I do, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to recover again."
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
and it sucks. On days that, like, I don't take my medicine, I can tell, like, "Man, like, I have
Yeah.
no energy to do it."
Yeah.
So
It's hard. It's like a hard balance of like listening to your body to like take a break, but also like the responsibilities that we have, especially like as business owners and things like that. Um,
yeah, I think the weird thing was knowing that there was actually like a physical
yeah.
repercussion for do like we all hear burnout and everyone's like sometimes
Yeah.
it's a trending word or like a buzzword. It's like, oh yeah, I have burnout. I have this. No, it's like a physical correlation
Mhm.
to it. Like your body will shut down.
Yeah.
It will respond in a fight or flight mode of what it needs to do.
Yeah.
So crazy.
So, what are some other ways that we can prevent? I also think building in time off.
Mhm.
We talk about that a lot, building in time off after big holidays. If you have the flexibility financially to build in a week off a month or like lower your orders for a certain month just to like get ahead on other things that are taking up space in the brain, managerial things, just time with family, anything like that. Being really cognizant of just building that stuff in, I think is another good way.
Yeah,
Um,
I started taking the week before holidays, like very limited orders so that it gave me more time going into a holiday week. If it was an amazing holiday week, like financially a really good one for me, I have no problem the next week being like minimal to no orders. Um, I really found that July, like I know some cookiers take summer off. I can't do that because again, this is a supplemental income to corporate America, so I can't take an entire month off. But I'll do a 1 or 2 week vacation in July. So that way, that halfway year burnout, I'm like, okay, at least I can like recharge. I feel like I have everything back in order before you go right into crazy busy season. Um, and then I, again, every year have adapted. And so, like you said, scheduling time off is I made the decision this year to take no customs after Halloween because I felt that burnout coming on before I even got to Christmas. That I'm like, oh my gosh, I just did 2 huge holiday sales and then like my kids, my family, and my house and everything. And that was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Financially, it was something that like I had to be aware of and like plan for. But taking the 2 weeks off, or I'm sorry, taking no customs after Halloween and the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving was godsend. Like it made me feel better going into holiday season.
That's amazing. I know that you were nervous about that
Mhm.
leading into it. But yeah, I think that's a great decision.
Yeah, it's not, and then I always take after my Christmas sales, I'll always take at least 2 weeks off. This year it was almost 3 weeks,
Mhm.
so I could just live a
Yeah.
normal life.
Yeah.
Um, it's sad to leave it. I'm always, like, dang it, but then part of me misses the, like, normalcy of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I also do think that it's like I was in my whole slump and I was communicating with Chelsea about like, "Hey, I know that I haven't really talked much about cookie chat lately. Sorry." Like blah blah blah. But then it's really amazing in this community. I feel like sometimes we can feel very siloed because a lot of us are sole entrepreneurs here and we're on our own and you can feel like you're on an island. But I I know in just us talking about like, okay, so we're gonna film. So now what are we gonna film about? And like once we started to get a ball rolling, then my brain is like, oh, okay, and this, and it like really started to get me like amped up and like out of the funk and more like productive and stuff. And that really helps. So I do think having friends or family that you can talk about the business to, or like kind of just go to lunch with somebody and like kind of talk about the business a little bit, something that just like sparks new things to get you excited and get the ball rolling can be really helpful to get out of it too.
yeah, I had that on our self care thing this week for one of
Mhm.
our posts on scheduling a coffee date or a Zoom if, again, you have nobody local that you can really chit chat and talk business with. But just that refilling of your cup
Mhm.
and somebody to help energize you, even if it's just planning days, like get on a Zoom with your two best cookie friends or three best cookie friends and kind of like, because there's times that Melissa will bring something up that I'm like, oh shoot, I did not even think of that for like a
Mhm.
holiday. So okay, I need to like readjust my schedule this way.
Mhm.
Or even just design ideas like, hey, this is what I'm kind of thinking.
Yeah.
And then like Melissa will tell me something. I'm like, oh shoot, I should add that. Oh, I should put this tag, or oh, I should go ahead
Mhm.
and buy this box. So just little things like that will really help feel
Yeah.
connected to something.
Yeah.
So because
Totally.
sometimes, do you ever feel like you're just talking to your phone and you forget there's people
Oh,
watching?
all the time. All
Yeah.
the time. Yes,
Yes.
all the time. All the time.
Sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, I did not realize that many people just viewed this.
I know. I know
Maybe I should put myself together.
Mike always brings that up to me, like my follower account or something. I'm like, how crazy that I'm like, yes, it is, but like it's it just it doesn't always like register and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's
Especially I feel
off.
like the way that I feel like Instagram is just quieter these days. I mean, granted, I've had some time off of it recently. So maybe that's why. But yeah, it's different and it's always going to evolve too. Um but another thing from a creative slump that I've seen somebody bring up before, which I think is a good idea, is if you're feeling stuck and in a creative slump, try taking a class. I
Mhm.
remember that is when my creativity like really started rolling was I took my first in-person cookie class. It was with Elsie Sweets, Lydia, and after that I was like I don't know why like I think just being in a room of other people who are passionate about what we do, like that sparks like a lot of fun stuff and just being a little bit more daring with your things. There's so many online cookie classes now that it's just I think that that's a good way to kind of like teach you a new technique and kind of get the ball rolling. When's the last time you took a class?
I think I've ever taken a cookie, somebody else's cookie class.
Haven't you've done Andy's online ones, haven't you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been years, but
Yeah.
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 Besides that, I mean, and I'll be interested when we go to CookieCon,
Yeah.
um, because I know when I did Christmas Cookie Challenge,
Yeah.
like that was a whole like you were living on adrenal energy high, and you came off and you were like, oh my god, this is the best day ever.
Yeah.
So, but then the crash was like
Oh,
a
I'm sure.
hard crash. So
Mhm.
I'll be interested in August, like that midway break,
Mhm.
what that's gonna bring.
I know.
Um, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, and I know it could be the level of customs that I do. I get just dropped my headphones. Um,
Okay.
yeah, my headphone has like a cord thing, so I was playing with it and it just
Oh,
bungeed
okay.
off my hands. Anyways, email burnout. I'm like, ugh, the constant need to check your email and respond and like you're missing something.
Oh, yeah.
It is the nicest break after
Mhm.
Halloween. It's like those 2 months that I'm like, I don't have to check my email. If something's coming in, I'm not taking it.
Yeah.
So, it's usually just I'm not open yet.
Yes, I agree with that, but I also say there's kind of like a like when you open a presale, it's like
Yeah.
like all these sales coming in and it's like a high and so fun. And then when it's like all this period of just like silence, it's also kind of like, huh. I mean, there's nothing there for people to be buying, so it shouldn't be, but
Yeah,
yes.
that'd be odd to imagine because yours are so, like, spaced to
Yeah,
where, like,
mine are
my
like
pre-sales
presale based. Yeah.
yeah, when my pre-sales aren't happening, I'm like, "Oh, crap, I'm invoicing the next person, I'm sending out" like, there's
Mhm.
always a, like, the next week, the next
Flow.
week, the next week, the
Yeah.
next week. So, it gets nice to, like I don't have to think about email.
Yeah, mine are big chunks. It's whether it's like an online class or like
Yeah.
pre-sales, it's like the big chunks. Mhm.
Yeah, so no, I feel like there's so many different levels of burnout that we can experience, but I just really think taking that time to find what is gonna refill your soul.
Mhm.
Like
Oh, and one last thing before we jump off. We had talked about this. I mean, it's common to see like and
oh,
it always like kind of makes me sad, but I understand it is, seeing cookie shops close and
mhm.
seeing the announcements of cookie shops closing. And I mean, Chelsea, you've been in the business longer than me. Do you feel like it is amped up at all recently? Do you feel like it's been pretty steady? Like, do you see any like trends? I mean, if it has, I feel like in the past 2 years, it's amped up of just so many of them opening.
Yeah, I do feel this January was a lot more people closing or stepping back or adjusting their business models.
Mm-hmm.
It's always January, it's always the announcements, clearly because the new year is
Yeah.
starting off. I do feel like this January was a lot heavier
Mm-hmm.
when it came to closures or stepping back.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wondered, was that because so many kicked off, like you said, in 2021, and now it's kind of the world is going back to prior?
I do think a lot of people either lost jobs or left corporate jobs and said, I want to try and like make this work and make
Mhm.
this happen. Um, but also I think, I mean, the cost of goods right now is making it really difficult if especially for full time. If you don't have the customer base already there and this was happening, like starting it right now, I can understand why that would be hard because your profit margins are a lot slimmer than they were a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, and it was terrifying raising my prices. Like, I've raised them every year, but the amount like, I increased it this year,
Mhm.
I was like, "Dang, from last year, someone's gonna be like, peace." And people have understood, which has been amazing, but like you said, I have that foundational
Yeah.
customer base that has
Yeah.
been with me and has that trust there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely that you're right, could play a lot into why we're seeing a shift.
Yeah. And then I do think that some of it's just people burning out.
Mhm.
And I do think we talked about this the other day when I shared somebody with you that was pulling back from it. And if I think especially if it's somebody who is creative who's never then taken their creativity to a business
Mhm.
model, it can be really jarring and really hard. And because they've probably never experienced balancing those things. And I come from the arts background, and so that was always, always, always talked about is turning your passion into a career and what that means. Like there are plenty of people who play competitive sports in college and can go pro or something like that, but they burn out. They just like don't, you've had enough of it and you get sick of it.
My husband being
Um,
one of those.
yeah. It's, I mean, it's just, if you, it's not for everybody. It's
Mm-mm.
not for everybody. And I do think that that is sometimes why people are like, well, it started out so fun, but then when it becomes a business, it's different. If you're not enjoying the business pieces of it too, and you don't have somebody there to help guide you so that you can do some of those things, then I mean, yeah, it's not for everybody because it's not just about it being fun and being creative and making cookies. It's about how much, honestly, if you break it down, what you personally do, Chelsea, running your cookie business, what percentage of it is creative based versus everything else associated?
I'd say only about 40% of it is creative based,
I would say
but
even less. It's
the
crazy.
business robs the fun of the creativity at times.
Mhm.
And unless you enjoy the business aspect of it along
Mhm.
with the creative aspect of it, it can be very daunting.
Yeah.
And there's days where you're left floundering, like, well, I don't want to do any of this. And so
Mhm.
you kind of just give up. Like I said, the business robs the passion from it. I am passionate about business. I like the business. I like setting up businesses. I
Yeah.
enjoy that part. And then I enjoy the creative. So to me, it was a blending of both worlds where I could have the best of both. And on days that I felt creative, I could gear towards that. But days I felt passionate about business and planning and numbers and spreadsheets, I could go do that.
Same.
Um, I think that when it comes to your business, there has to be something else besides the creativity that's driving you.
Mhm.
Because if that's the only thing on days that are hard, it's really hard to then pull yourself up to keep
Mhm.
going. So I know for me personally, it was being able to be home with my kids and being
Mhm.
able to have the flexibility of I love being the housewife. I love cooking. I love cleaning. I love the organizing aspect of
Mhm.
it. And in order to fulfill that part of my heart, I have to be able to work from home.
Yeah.
I have to have that flexibility. So on days that I'm like, I don't feel creative, it's like, well, if you're not going to get up and get your job done, then your solution is go back to corporate.
Mhm.
So I also think if you're just starting out, setting a short term goal. I gave myself, I want to be out of corporate America for X amount of years,
Mhm.
was a goal that I was working towards. And it just, again, made something to pull from on those hard days. Like, I want to at least spend 1 year out of corporate and be able to do this.
Yeah.
Or I want to take my business and make X amount in this year.
Yeah.
It just helps
Yeah.
project it forward. So I agree with you. It's hard. It's this world isn't just all creative.
Yeah.
And it
It's
sucks
not.
sometimes because
Yeah.
sometimes I don't want to bake. I just want to decorate.
Yeah. Totally. I know there's times where I'm like, "Could I just go work at a bakery?"
I know. Yeah. We'll just be like, hey, Ashley, we're coming to Washington and helping you decorate for the
Yes.
day.
Oh my
And
gosh, right? That'd be
put
awesome.
all the, I mean, that could be a whole job in itself. You could be a traveling flooder or something. Like if you just love
Ooh, that'd be
flooding,
fun.
flooding all your
Uh,
cookiers in your local area, be like, hey, I will help you flood on this day. You flood this day. Could be a whole passion.
Well, what
But
I do hope is that for anybody who feels burnout or that does struggle with like balancing creative with business is that the cookie chat helps support and make it like an easier reality for you to like be able to succeed. I think that
mm,
we both felt like we needed that and at times in our building our businesses, and that's kind of like why we a big part of why we wanted to start this. So
yeah,
I hope it helps.
we're here for you. We feel it.
Yeah, we're all
We go through
here.
it.
I hope this wasn't a downer. I just feel like we've
No,
all gone through it.
yeah, no, definitely. And I think, like you said, we all kind of come back refueled and ready to
Mhm.
go. The first 3 months of the year is like, yeah.
I
And then
know.
I know I feel it starting to come on, which I'm already like aware of, is
Yeah.
the dauntingness of May.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ugh," it
It's
scares
one of
me.
those things where it's just like I found too, if I'm starting to think about like Easter or something like that, and it's like exciting to think about, then I'll go ahead and start jotting down notes or I'll like
Mhm.
sketch something out really quick. Because if I'm getting closer and I'm feeling like sluggish or not in my creative zone, then I've at least done some of the work, you
Yeah.
know? Like, so like take advantage of, because the other thing, the last thing I'll say about it is like when I feel burnt out, I know that it's that I'll come out of it. Like I know that it's not always going to last. I know that there are steps that I can take to get out of it, you know? It's because there are definitely times in the burnout where I'm like, I quit. I just don't want to do, why did I do this? Blah, blah, blah. This is stupid. But I've been in it enough that I know that I'm gonna come out of it, and then I'm probably gonna have, like, another, like, business idea or extension of my business that I wanna do out of it.
You
It's
100% do that. Sometimes I'm
it
like,
yeah,
"Melissa."
I know. It's like that TikTok where it's like, "Ugh, the extrovert planned a brunch, and now the introvert in me doesn't wanna go."
I know sometimes I feel like that's you and I. Melissa's like got everything, and I'm like, girl, I'm like just getting
Oh,
up.
yeah. No, we balance it back and forth for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, well, you guys, I hope that you can take something from this episode. Know you're not alone. Know that we feel you, we see you, we're here for you. We all go through it, but
Yeah.
let's find a way to work together and pull each other up. And
Yeah. Drop little love notes below to everybody and words of
yeah,
encouragement if we're in our slump. Or
yes,
what we're doing out of our slump, or ideas to get out of the slump.
there you
All
go.
of the above, all of the above. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, guys.
I am Chelsea with Rolling in the Dough AZ,
I am Melissa with Missy P Sweets. May your cakes never be dry.
and your icing be shiny and crater free. Have a good one.
Bye.